Is there anything worrying you? Have you ever been in love with two men at once, Mom? There was a defiant note in her voice, as if life had set its traps only for her. Yes, I have. Brida stared at her in amazement. Her mother smiled and invited her to continue their walk. Your father was my first and greatest love, she said, and I'm still very happy with him. After I met your father, I realized that my search was over. I didn't need any other explanation of the world. I didn't feel frustrated to be living here, always seeing the same people and doing the same things. Every day was different because of the great love between us. We started going out together and then we got married. I never talked to him about my dreams of going to live in a big city, of discovering other places and other people, because suddenly the whole world fitted into my village. Love became my explanation for life. You mentioned someone else, Mom. Let me show you something. They walked to the bottom of the steps that led up to the Catholic church in the village. This is where it happened, she said. One afternoon, for some reason or other, I decided to come here to pray. I needed to be alone to think about my life, and I thought the church would be a good place to do so. When I got here, however, I met a man. He was sitting where you are now, with two suitcases beside him, and he looked totally lost, desperately leafing through the book he was holding. I thought he must be a tourist in search of a hotel, and so I went over to him. I even started talking to him. He seemed a bit startled at first, but then he relaxed. Suddenly, all the problems I had been grappling with disappeared as if by magic. I felt really useful and started telling him everything I knew, feeling that the many years I'd spent in the region at last had some meaning. Before me was a man who had studied people and societies, who might hold in his memory, for the benefit of future generations, everything I'd heard or discovered when I was a child. That man sitting on the steps made me understand that I was important to the world and to the history of my country. I felt necessary, and that's the best feeling a human being can have. When I'd finished telling him about the church, we went on to talk about other things. I told him how proud I was of my village, and he responded with some words by a writer whose name I don't recall now. Something about how understanding your own village helps you understand the world. Tolstoy, said Brida, but her mother was still traveling in time, just as she herself had done one day. Except that her mother didn't require cathedrals adrift in space, subterranean libraries, or dusty books. She needed only the memory of that spring afternoon and a man sitting on the steps with his suitcases. We talked for quite a while. I had the whole afternoon free to spend with him. But since the mechanic might arrive at any moment, I decided to make the most of every second. I asked him about his world, about excavations, about the challenges of spending his life looking for the past in the present. He spoke to me of the warriors, wise men, and pirates who had once inhabited our country. Before I knew it, the sun was low on the horizon, and never in all my life had time passed so quickly. I sensed that he felt the same. He kept asking me questions to keep the conversation going, not giving me time to say that I had to leave. He talked non-stop, telling me all about his experiences, and he wanted to know everything about me too. I could see in his eyes that he desired me, even though At the time, I was nearly twice the age you are now. It was spring. There was a lovely smell of new things in the air, and I felt young again. There's a flower that only blooms in the autumn. Well, that afternoon, I felt like that flower, as if suddenly, in the autumn of my life, where I thought I'd experienced everything I could experience, that man had appeared on the steps purely to show me that feelings, love, for example, do not grow old along with the body. Feelings form part of a world I don't know, but it's a world where there is no time, no space, no frontiers. She remained silent for a while. Her eyes were still far off, fixed on that distant spring. There was I, like a 38-year-old adolescent, feeling that someone desired me. He didn't want me to leave. Then all of a sudden, he stopped talking. He looked deep into my eyes and smiled. It was as if he'd understood with his heart what I was thinking and wanted to tell me that it was true, that I was very important to him. For some time, we said nothing, and then we said goodbye. For many days, I wondered if that man really had existed or if he was an angel sent by God to teach me the secret lessons of life. In the end, I decided that he had been a real man, a man who had loved me, even if only for an afternoon. And during that afternoon, he'd given me everything he had kept to himself throughout his whole life, his struggles, his joys, his difficulties, and his dreams. That afternoon, I gave myself wholly as well. I was his companion, his wife, his audience, his lover. In a matter of only a few hours, I experienced the love of a lifetime. Mother looked at daughter. She hoped her daughter had understood, but deep down she felt that Brida lived in a world in which that kind of love had no place. I have never stopped loving your father, Brida, not for a single day, she concluded. He's always been by my side, doing his best, and I want to be with him until the end. But the heart's a mysterious thing, and I still don't really understand what happened that afternoon. What I do know is that meeting that man left me feeling more confident and showed me I was still capable of loving and being loved. And it taught me something else that I will never forget. Finding one important thing in your life doesn't mean you have to give up all the other important things. I still think of him sometimes. I'd like to know where he is, if he found what he was looking for that afternoon, if he's still alive, or if God took his soul. I know he'll never come back, which is why I could love him with such strength and such certainty, because I would never lose him. He had given himself to me entirely that afternoon. Wow, what an amazing read. So for all of you who are listening, this is an incredibly beautiful excerpt from Brida, written by Paulocoelho. I'm a huge fan of this book and of the whole soulmate concept. Some things you just feel inside. Some things you just know are true and you believe in them even if the world tells you otherwise. There's some deep knowledge that only souls understand. So all of you beautiful people, whoever is listening to me, if you like listening to me, do press the red subscribe button and the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of my readings, my book reviews, all the unusual, interesting content that I bring you. Keep believing in love. It's the most beautiful thing that can ever happen to any soul. Basically, the whole reason why we are here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Lots and lots of love. Thank you.